should start this little meeting. So I'm just going to very quickly introduce myself. You may well perhaps know who I am, but just in case, I will introduce myself anyway. So my name is Ajahn Brahmali, and I am a friend of Venerable Karunika, who is on the retreat right now. So I'm just kind of stepping in just to do something, just for in her absence. So that's the way it goes. So I hope you are okay with that. If you're not, then you just going to have to live with it, because it's me or nothing really right now. So that's the way it goes. So wonderful to be with you, and I think it's amazing what is happening in Sydney with Santi Monastery. I've been following along, and it's great that we can have monasteries for nuns again, around Australia and different places. I think as far as the Western world is concerned, outside of Asian countries, I know, of course, in Sri Lanka, the bhikkhunis are doing really, really well. But in the West, I think Australia is kind of the leading edge of the return to bhikkhunis, and the bhikkhunis being a major part of the Sangha and the four assemblies. That's a wonderful thing, and Santi is doing that job to a large extent in Sydney. So it's wonderful that you are supporting that, and that you are taking part in this and coming to these meetings and listening to the Dhamma from bhikkhunis. That's a wonderful thing. But today, I'm not a bhikkhuni, just to make that absolutely clear. So just today is going to be me as a replacement for Venerable Karunika. So let's get started. So I'm just going to say a very few words, first of all, just on the idea of meditation. And then we're going to do some meditation together. And then we will give a little Dhamma talk, and then we can have some Q&A at the end. This is what I have been suggested to me as the good procedure for this. So meditation is one of these very simple things. Very often in life, we make things too complicated. Our lives are often very complicated. And then when it comes to meditation practice, we bring that complicated mind into meditation. And that means that we are not find it hard to just relax and to enjoy and to find the peace that we are looking for in our meditation practice. So one way of thinking about meditation, we can think about it through three different qualities. And these qualities are the idea of letting go, the idea of enjoyment, and the idea of mindfulness. Letting go, enjoyment, and mindfulness. And if we get these things right, these very simple ideas right, then meditation will tend to work as a consequence. So letting go, enjoyment, and mindfulness, these three qualities coming together. And so the starting point very often is actually, it's letting go is often the beginning of meditation. In fact, letting go is not just the beginning, it goes all the way through, all the way to as far as you want to go. But it certainly starts out the moment you sit down and you just, want to get some benefit from meditation practice. And so letting go, really, the moment you sit down, you feel your body, you feel the mind, and any tensions that you may have, any tightness in the mind, any sense of not being at ease, not being relaxed, all of that is a result of the fact that you are not letting go. You're holding on to something. That's why you're not really at ease with your meditation. And so from the very beginning, it's important to find that ease, find that relaxation. In other words, feel your mind, feel your body, feel everything, and ensure that you actually are at ease. And as you allow yourself to, become at ease and relaxed and all of these kind of things, that actually is an act of letting go. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Often we think about letting go as some kind of major thing when one day, bang, you let go of the whole world and you enter a deep state of samadhi or whatever. And sometimes that is the case. Sometimes that is what letting go is. But letting go is actually a very, very simple act in the beginning. It's the act of letting things be, of not controlling things. And as you don't control things, then that is actually where you find the sense of ease in your meditation. The idea of just standing back, of being with rather than doing things. Being with is a nice way of thinking about meditation. You be, you are, and you are with whatever happens. You don't try to control your experience or control your body or control anything. You allow things to be. And that already is an act of letting go. And so to be able to do this, very often it's just a matter of having the right kind of attitude. Yeah, and the attitude is not one of making the meditation work, of controlling the meditation. That's the wrong way of thinking about it. But instead, it is the act of being with things. In other words, it's more like just sitting back and actually and not doing anything at all and just observing. It's as if you are not really in charge of things. You're not really in control of anything. Everything in your mind, everything in your body is as if you are watching things, just like you're watching things in the world outside. You're watching a tree, you're watching the sun. In the same way, you're watching your body and mind with an idea of non-involvement. Yeah, you're not involved with the tree in the forest because you can't really control the trees in the forest. In the same way, you try not to be involved with your own body and mind. You just observe, you're with rather than trying to make something out of it. And a simple way of thinking about this that I sometimes tell people is the idea of just resting. Yeah, you had a long day at work or whatever it might be that you are doing, and you come back home and you just want to rest because you are tired and exhausted from all the demands and all the, the concentration that you have to force yourself to do things that maybe sometimes not 100% happy. Yeah, sometimes maybe work is nice sometimes, but sometimes we have to do things that maybe we're not 100%, yay, work. We kind of don't always think like that. And so then you come back home and you want to relax because you are tired. And what do you do? Maybe you sit down on a kind of nice chair, maybe you lie down on your bed and you relax. And what do you do? Well, you don't do anything. That's the whole point. You allow the mind to kind of just flow. You allow the mind to kind of unwind itself. Yeah, this is the idea of relaxing. And the miraculous thing is that if you do that, if you sit down in a nice armchair or you lie down on your bed or whatever you do, and you just relax, the mind actually does unwind. And after a few minutes doing that, yeah, you actually start to feel the mind regaining energy again, coming back alive again. And this is the kind of the beautiful thing about just relaxing. And meditation is a bit like that. Yeah, it's the idea of just sitting back, not doing anything, just learning to relax in this particular way. And so I'm saying this just to give an idea of what it means to relax. Very often we try to relax, we try to do the relaxation, but all of that is counterproductive. But the idea of just resting in an armchair gives you this idea of how relaxation, how letting go actually comes about. And then we use this idea that we get from the very beginning of letting go, of being with. We use that stage by stage by stage in the meditation. Yeah, being the observer, being the passenger rather than the driver. This idea that Ajahn Brahmali often talks about, being the passenger on the train rather than the driver of the train. When you are the passenger, you have no say about the scenery. You have to just enjoy or not enjoy whatever happens. Yeah. So the idea of being a passenger is a beautiful metaphor or simile for how meditation is supposed to work. You are with, you're not kind of working against and all of these kind of things. And so this then becomes then a theme that you use in a meditation, slowly, slowly, gradually, gradually going deeper and deeper and deeper, just by observing, not by being involved. And if you do this, what you will find is that sometimes you will find that, what will you find? I wonder, what do you find if sometimes you just let go like that? And what you find if you do that is that you fall asleep, right? You know what I mean? Or you become very tired. Sometimes the letting go works and you're kind of okay. Other times you just become sleepy and you can't really get your energy going. And so one of the tricks then to make the mind more attentive, to enable the meditation to work, to get the clarity that is required for the mind to actually get to the idea of mindfulness, is to learn to enjoy the meditation. This is such an important thing. This is the second factor. First of all, letting go, then enjoyment. So you have to learn to enjoy here. Yeah, and one of the ways of learning enjoyment is simply to focus on that aspect in the meditation that is enjoyable. Yeah, focus on, wow, actually being peaceful is really nice. Sometimes people think being peaceful is kind of boring because you can't be on the social media or whatever, but actually it is far preferable to be peaceful than to have this restless mind always moving around, never really settling on anything. So you enjoy the peace. You enjoy the idea of not having any business. Yeah, you let go of everything. You have nothing you have to sort out or to control or anything like that, and just feel that sense of freedom. Yeah, it's a freeing, beautiful, freeing idea of not having anything to do. All this doing is just kind of it's oppressive. We are oppressed by all the doing in our life, and suddenly we don't have to be oppressed anymore. And so feel that sense of liberation, of freedom that comes from a very, very simple thing of just sitting down, letting go of the world outside and having nothing to do but just being in the present. It's very beautiful. And then you want to take that idea of enjoyment stage by stage, just like the idea of letting go, you take the idea of enjoyment as well to deeper and deeper levels. Yeah, enjoyment is not a fixed thing. It is something that develops over time as your meditation works. And so then sometimes you can use little aids in your meditation, what we call the anusatis, the recollections, various kind of recollections, just to aid the idea of enjoyment. Yeah, just to remembering that you are living a good life. Yeah, all of you are living a good life, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. No bad people come to these kind of meetings. I usually ask people if there are any bad people in the audience, but no one ever says they're bad. Yeah, so there must be all good people in these audiences. That's what I reckon. So of course there is. Yeah, it's obvious because otherwise you wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. And so you think about you're living a good life. You're doing something good. You're supporting good projects. Yeah, and this is worthwhile feeling good about. Yeah, feeling good about what you do in the world, how you support the positive things in the world. You're lifting the world up. People who are kind are the ones that lift the world up. They're the ones that add something to our world. And so you are being part of making the world better by practicing the spiritual path. What a wonderful thing that is. So often people don't do that, but in our position, we all try to do that. We have part and parcel of creating a better world for ourselves and everyone else as well. So you incline your mind to some very simple ideas like that, or having a sense of gratitude. Yeah, you are here. You are a disciple of the Buddha. What? The Buddha? Are you serious? You have a disciple of the Buddha? That's amazing. The Buddha is the greatest spiritual genius in human history, recorded human history. There's no one like the Buddha. The Buddha is like head and shoulders above everyone else. The Buddha is like it's extraordinary spiritual person. And here we are, and we are disciples of that Buddha. Have you ever considered that properly? That's kind of really amazing and extraordinary. How have we found our way through the jungle of life, negotiating all the difficulties, found our way to the Buddha, the awakened one? That's kind of extraordinary. You have the Buddha as your teacher. And not only the Buddha as your teacher, then you have all his teachings. We have more teachings of the Buddha today, probably, than in all history of Buddhism. Yeah, because we have all the Nikayas and everything, and in different languages and what have you. Right there available on our fingertips. So you have these teachings of the Buddha, you have the Dhamma, his teachings, you have the Sangha, yeah, still people practicing in this world. having those experiences, profound insights that Buddha talked about, and they are still around giving teachings. It's just amazing what we have. And then you have your Kalyana Mittas, yeah, all the people you practice with, etc., etc. And so this is how you lift yourself up and you feel a sense of gratitude for what you have, because it is extraordinary what we have. And sometimes we don't appreciate it enough. And that can be part of the problem. So in this way, you build up the letting go. You build up the sense of appreciation and joy in the practice. And as you do that, you will notice that mindfulness gradually becomes stronger and stronger as you do that. And then the meditation kind of comes together as a consequence. So these are the basic ideas. And these basic ideas are actually sufficient to take you all the way into the deepest kind of meditation. I could go on about this, but the time is, as always, not as short. So I'm going to now get into the real doing of meditations. Let's do some meditation together, and then we can talk more about various issues afterwards. Okay, so let's get ready. Okay, so when we start out, to start out by closing your eyes and finding a nice, comfortable posture for yourself. It's important to be at ease. It's important to be comfortable because we want to get the body out of the way. The body is really just a hindrance in meditation. Meditation is all about the mind. So just find that nice, comfortable posture where you are at ease, but not super indulgent or anything like that. And then when we get started in the meditation, just start out just by feeling the body and feeling the mind, kind of settling inside of yourself, knowing if you are at ease or not. And usually it takes a little bit of time to settle down and to find that ease. So just stay with the feelings in your body and just allow them gradually to fade into the background. Have a sense of gentle attention towards yourself, towards your body. And as you do that, allow any stress you may have, any tensions you may have to completely disappear. So you feel really at ease, really comfortable, and just so happy just sitting there. And just keep that gentle attention on the body for now, allowing the body to really become more at ease than it ever is really during the day. During the day, because of all the activities, there's always a degree of tension in the body and the mind. And now we want to go beyond all of that, find a deep sense of ease. And so stay with the body for a while. Just learn teaching the body to relax, having a sense of gentleness, a gentle, soft kind of presence of the mind. And then just go with the flow of whatever is happening in the moment. Take things very slowly. Don't be too concerned with the breath at the beginning of the meditation. Just leave the breath aside in the beginning. And now just go with the flow of things. The idea of the flow is that whatever happens is fine. There's no need to control. There's no need to do anything. You are being with rather than reacting against. So be with, be a passenger, be an observer, be someone who just notices things without reacting to them. There is no right, there is no wrong. There's just phenomena coming and going, sounds, thoughts, whatever it might be. And as the mind and the body, they start to settle down, make sure that you appreciate the enjoyment that comes from that, the delight in allowing things to settle down. Every stage of the path, always make sure you enjoy what is happening here, because by learning to enjoy, you are drawing the mind into the present. This is the glue that makes mindfulness possible, the enjoyment of the peace, the enjoyment of what is happening right here and now. So focus on the feeling of that peace, the feeling of being free of burdens, and also the enjoyment of just being in good company, having all these wonderful people to support you and to help us together on the spiritual path. And as you gradually build up the mindfulness in this way, you build it up through letting go and through enjoyment. You will find at some point that the breath is just present with you. And when the breath is present with you, you are already doing, in a sense, mindfulness of breathing. So when the breath arrives to you, you don't really go looking for the breath, but the breath is just there. And just very gently stay with the breath. And the right way of observing the breath is as if you're observing a tree in the forest. If there's a tree in the forest, you have no involvement with that tree. You don't try to control it. You don't try to make it be this way or that way. And the breath is exactly the same. You allow the body to do the breathing. You have no involvement with the breath. You observe it as if from a distance, allowing the breath to be, just enjoying the beautiful company of the soft, delightful feeling of the breath. Make sure that you enjoy the meditation practice. If you don't enjoy it, it is often a sign that you are holding on too much. You haven't let go enough. So if that is the case, then don't try to follow the breath too much. Go back to the earlier stages on the path instead. Only when the breath meditation is enjoyable, easy, and nice, as if you are observing something from afar without being involved, only then is the meditation really worthwhile. Otherwise, build up the causes instead. And as you do that, eventually you come to the point you can just relax, just to be with establishing mindfulness and staying with whatever object you like. Okay, so we are coming close to the end. Before we come to the end, just take a minute just to review the meditation here today. If you do feel more peaceful, more at ease, more mindful, more happy, whatever it is, Ask yourself why that is the case. How does this process work? What is the right attitude of mind? How do you use your perception? What does it mean to let go? Um, Okay, yeah. Everyone, so that is the meditation for today. Just to start off with the most important part of the practice, which always is the meditation or the things that we do rather than the things that we listen to. But listening to the Dhamma is also really part of the practice in many ways. And because listening to the Dhamma allows us to kind of set the mind in the right direction and point it in the right way. And this is a very important part of what the Buddhist path is about. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the idea of right view. It's one of my favorite subjects because it is a very vast subject. There is so much to be said about right view. And it is such an important part of the practice. It's very often underestimated how important the idea of right view actually is. And so just to give you some idea of the importance of right view, it is at the very beginning of the Noble Eightfold Path, of course. Yeah, we have Sammaditthi, right view at the very beginning. And that right view, it supports basically all the other factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. It is at the beginning, so right view, it obviously supports your right intention, because when you have right view, your mind tends to intend in the right way. That is kind of the idea, whole idea of right view. Understanding things in the right way, you can make good choices. And good choices is really what right intention is about, directing the mind in the right way. Right view is also about morality. If you want to be a moral person, right view is foundational for that. And I will talk a little bit about that today because it is not as simple as you may think it is. It's actually quite involved, the idea of understanding the connection between right view and morality. Of course, right view is also fundamental for meditation practice because it guides the meditation. It kind of puts the mind on the right track, it sets it in the right direction. And also, it is fundamental for the deep states, the insights, and all of the things that come at the very end of the path. So, right view is incredibly important. And I think that among all the factors that is underestimated, that we don't talk enough about. We talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is, talked about heaps, but people forget the things that make mindfulness possible. And one of the very important things that make mindfulness possible is right view. Without right view, mindfulness is going to be all over the place, and mindfulness is not going to have much power. And I will show you why that is the case as we go along here. And I am often reminded of, some of the great teachers in the various meditation teachers in the Theravada Buddhist, various forest teachers and all of these kind of things. And one of the very interesting sayings by a teacher like Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah was one of the most famous meditation masters in Thailand in the 20th century. And one of the things that he said, which is actually very interesting, and it says us something about our attitude to life and how we should make right view work for ourselves. He said that everything teaches you. Yeah, everything teaches you. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you, how everything can teach you. But the reason why or how everything can teach you, it all depends on your attitude to the world around you. If you have the right attitude, if you look at the world around you, if you look at your life, your friends, your enemies, I hope you don't have too many enemies, but if you have some few enemies, maybe whatever it is, if you look at in general, the world and also your mind through the right kind of filter, and the filter being the teachings of the Buddha, then that will actually give rise to wisdom at all times. So when we look at the world, when we look at what is happening in our lives, it is very important to put on the right kind of filters so we see things in the right way. That is really so important. And then everything can start to teach you. And you go through your daily life, you go through work, through family life, through all kinds of things, and things start to look different. They don't look the way they usually look. They look, you see them through the eyes of the Dhamma, and they take on an aspect of the path. And then right intention, all of these other beautiful things arise through that filter mechanism of using the Dhamma as a filter. And so this is a way of approaching life in general. And I will give you a very simple example of this because examples are always very useful rather than just talking theoretically. And I just came back from Europe just about a week ago, just not quite a week, getting close to a week now. And I remember as I was traveling to Europe, I was traveling in one of these very fancy planes, this kind of the Airbus, what's it called? Airbus A380, this kind of double-decker Airbus, kind of this enormous, enormous thing, this enormous metal tube flying through the sky, and a very remarkable piece of engineering that, and you sit in this plane and you marvel at this ability of this enormous thing to fly through the sky. It's kind of a bit scary if you contemplate it too much because you start thinking it might fall down. This enormous metal tube is kind of worrying when you start thinking about it too much. Anyway, so go from Perth, you go all the way to the Middle East because going to Europe is very handy to go via the Middle East. And we landed in Qatar, in Doha, the capital of Qatar. And it's this amazing airport, this incredibly well-designed airport. It has won a lot of prizes for being the best airport in the world and all of these kind of things. And it is a humongous thing. And all the mechanisms that make this airport operate, a very complex system of logistics that makes sure your baggage goes in the right place and the passengers go through the right channels and you have to go through the customs and everything is this enormous machine that has all been created by human beings. And sometimes when you look at all of these things, you kind of marvel at the ingenuity of human beings. It's amazing what we can do, what we create in this world. You look at the road systems, you look at the kind of how the cargoes kind of move throughout the world from rail to ship. Everything is kind of synchronized. You have just-in-time production, how things are produced in a factory in Japan. Everything comes from various countries together just at the right time. Bang, the product comes out, it gets shipped off to you, and you have it. Everything is this remarkable system of things somehow working together. The internet, all the institutions that we have, the governments that we have created to run this world of ours, the hospital systems that are incredibly complex systems, education systems. It's just amazing what we have created out, human beings, the technology, the human society, all of these things. And I remember as I was flying on this plane and I was coming close to Doha, I was kind of thinking about all this, thinking, wow, this is amazing. All of these things that we have created. Isn't it marvelous? The iPhones, the technology, incredibly complex technology. And as I was marveling about all of this, I started to realize that I was indulging in kind of worldly thinking. This is worldly thinking, indulging in the world, indulging in the amazing ingenuity of human beings. It's kind of a worldly thought. And I realized I was using the wrong kind of filter. I wasn't looking at it in the right way. And then I changed my approach. And I realized, well, actually, what I am seeing, all of this ingenuity in human beings is the result of one thing. It is the result of suffering. That is where it comes from. People do all of these kind of things. We build all of these kind of things because we are driven by suffering. We're trying to find happiness. We're trying to find contentment. We're trying to find a solution to all the problems in life. That is the driving force. So I put on the suffering filter. And when I saw the suffering filter, suddenly everything changed. Instead of being beautiful, I realized it is a result of this restless search for meaning, for contentment, for happiness, for an ending of all the problems. This is what drives this whole thing, all the society around us. And then I thought, well, okay, all of this restlessness, all of this craving, if you like, that comes because we don't feel complete, we don't feel content. Does it really work? Does it really give any satisfaction? Do we actually find a solution to suffering? And of course, the obvious answer is no, we don't really find that solution to suffering. Yeah, you look at the world today and you compare it to the time of the Buddha 2,500 years ago, and you can say that in some ways, in some ways life is better. In some ways we have better healthcare, we have better medicines probably, there's many things that are superior. We can have Zoom meetings. Yeah, this is kind of helpful. Yeah, so we can be around different places around the world and we can kind of have Dhamma interactions, even though we live really far apart. So there are many things in the modern world which are good. But on the other hand, there are many things that are bad in the modern world. Yeah, all the distractions that we have on the internet, all the suffering, all the mental kind of problems that people have these days because they're using the internet too much. They are not really finding any joy in human relationships, all these artificial relationships that we have with others. And all of these things created, all the suffering created by social media and mobile phones. The very technology that we have built to end suffering causes new suffering here, causes new problems. We're not really getting anywhere. There is no solution in that realm outside. There's no solution in the realm of just building up more things, doing more things, trying to find external solution to an internal solution of suffering that we have. And so this is the issue. And then I compared our modern society to the time of the Buddha. Was the time of the Buddha were people any less happy at that time? And in some ways, they were probably less happy because people died at a younger age and there were many things that were difficult and hard. But in some ways, they may be more happy, more content, not driven by so much external craving for all the things in the world. So what society is better? And sometimes it's very hard to judge because on balance, what is better is very difficult to know. But the point is that search in the external world, searching for an end of suffering, we are looking in the wrong place. We don't really understand the nature of the problem. And if you see that, then you start to lose your interest in this delighting in technology. Yeah, it draws you in sometimes, the idea of technology, the latest kind of artificial intelligence. Can it be used to help humanity? Is it going to destroy the suttas? We've been discussing whether it's going to be able to, translate suttas properly or not. And I think that's probably the wrong area to use it. But maybe in other areas it might be helpful, yeah? The kind of quantum computers or whatever it might be. It's very easy to be drawn in by technology or by evolution in our society, new ways of doing things, or whatever, thinking, that there is a solution there, thinking that is actually what progress is about. And then the moment you realize, actually, this isn't really all that interesting at all, because that is not where the solution is to be found. And you lose some of that intoxication with the world outside, the interest in where that world is going. And that is one of the results of looking through the right filter rather than the wrong filter. And this is one of the things that I found very interesting as I was looking at the world in this particular way. And one of the kind of very strange things is that if we get this wrong, if we believe in this idea of creating a good external world, of always working really hard to kind of get the external world right. Actually, what we are doing, the weird thing, as we are doing that, we are actually perpetuating suffering in the future. Because that very drive of trying to get out of suffering in the external world, that very drive is the craving that creates more suffering in the future. That very drive is the craving that creates rebirth. So in a very strange way, by trying to get out of suffering in the wrong way, we're actually creating more suffering in the future. This is kind of the weird thing about things. And this comes because we are thinking about life in the wrong way. We're looking at things in the wrong way. And so this is one way of thinking about the idea of a right view, understanding where to look for the solutions, not looking at the solutions in the wrong place. Another idea, another kind of thing which supports this idea, is this, and that is what I would call the Buddhist concept of time. This is also a particular kind of aspect of the idea of right view. And the Buddhist idea of time is a very different idea from the ordinary idea of time that we have in our society. If you think about our society, especially in the Western world, but I think actually everywhere in the world, really, we have this idea of time that has a linear kind of idea of time. The way we think about time, especially, for example, take Christianity. Christianity has this idea that God creates the universe. That's the beginning. And then you have this idea of the second coming of Christ or whatever. I don't know much about Christianity. If what I'm saying is nonsense, don't worry too much. But there is this sense of progression from a beginning point to an end point. And then we are somewhere along that line somewhere. We are moving towards some kind of purpose, some kind of aim somewhere in the future. There is a purpose there. And this is the linear idea of time. We are starting somewhere and going somewhere, and we're kind of making kind of progress towards that point. And in some ways, science also has this idea of linear time. At least it has had so far. The scientific idea is that there is the Big Bang over here. That's kind of the beginning of time. And it's kind of the big whimper when everything kind of disperses or whatever over here somewhere. And we are somewhere in the middle. There's a sense of kind of goal. This is a very bleak kind of goal. Nevertheless, there's a sense of kind of moving towards something. And I think a lot of this idea of linear time, it is driven by the human ego, because the ego, the sense of self, wants purpose, it wants meaning. If life has no meaning, then you become depressed. You become sad. You lie down on your bed and you just kind of look at the ceiling and you moan and think, I might as well die. And then you die and you get reborn. And then you moan more, and it kind of goes on like this forever. But the human ego requires meaning. And so the idea of the sense of self, it tends to create the idea of linear time. Because if there is linear time, there is purpose. There is an aim somewhere. We're heading towards something. We actually have a goal somewhere. And this is one of the reasons why the ego is very problematic, because it creates these kind of illusions. Because from a Buddhist point of view, the idea of linear time is an illusion. There is no linear time in Buddhism. The Buddhist idea of time is circular time. The idea of going round, coming back again and again and again to the same point that we were before. Not exactly the same point, but roughly the same point. There are changes, of course, but the basic ideas are the same. And you can see this in a number of ways. One way of seeing this is through your habits as a person. We're very habitual as human beings, and we tend to come back to the same things again and again and again. Look at the way you think about things, how very often we obsess about things in our thinking mind. The same thoughts coming back, the same ideas returning, whether you want to or not, they come back to you, and you think
Alexa,
about things obsessively
what time is it?
really finding any solution, any kind of way out, any end point to these things. So this is one way in which things tend to be circular. The same things happening in our lives, the same problems reoccurring, not really finding a solution. The second way, which is more of a Buddhist kind of way, is of course the idea of rebirth. Yeah, coming back again to the same things that you have done in past lives, forgetting in the meantime all the lessons that you learned in your previous life, they're kind of gone. And so you have to relearn things because you had to go through the process of being born, and that process of being born kind of eradicates so many of the memories, yeah, and so we have to start afresh. And so you keep on going round and round in this way. And you can start to see why this Buddhist idea of time is a bit despairing. Yeah, do we really want to continue around like this all the time, never really learning our lessons, always coming back to the same thing? There's something very terrible about the circular idea of time. It is very distressing, in fact. The linear idea of time gives us a sense of meaning, but the circular idea of time actually is a very scary way of thinking about the world. And it is actually worse than that, because according to Buddhism, it is not just the fact that we kind of get reborn again into new lives all the time. The whole universe goes through all of these cycles. Yeah, you go through one universe, and then the universe, for goodness sake, starts afresh. And then it starts afresh again. So these enormous cycles of time, the things that we often call eons. One eon is like one universal cycle. The universe evolves, and then it kind of collapses again, evolves and collapses, and it goes on like this again and again and again. The words that you find in the Pali language for the evolution and collapse of the universe, these are vivattati. Vivattati means literally to roll out. Is exactly the same word you find in English, evolve. Volve is to roll, e is like outwards. So evolution, evolve, the same word, basically exactly the same idea as vivattati in Pali. And then you have samvattati, which is the dissolution or the collapse of the universe. And it goes through these enormous cycles. So this is the Buddhist idea of time, and it's a very, very different concept from the one that we are used to in modern societies. And it's kind of a scary concept. And when you are faced with these kind of difficult teachings, you have to be a little bit careful, because sometimes if you overdo this kind of reflection, you may find yourself becoming sad, yeah, or depressed, because it sounds so terrible, right? So you have to be very careful. And so the idea, you have to use these ideas in the right way. And the right way to use these ideas is to remind yourself of the importance of the spiritual practice. This is why we have the spiritual practice, because the world outside, the world around us, whatever is happening, has this kind of circular quality to it. Our worldly life has this circular quality to it, but the spiritual path does not. And this is the beauty of the spiritual path. The spiritual path, we're coming back again to the idea of linear time, because the spiritual path does have a purpose. The spiritual path does have an endpoint. It actually goes somewhere. And this is one of those really uplifting ideas about the spiritual path, how we can withdraw from this endless circular motion that actually is completely pointless at the end of the day by practicing the spiritual path. The Buddha calls the spiritual path, he says, is sa'atang. And sa'atang means that it has a goal, it has a purpose. Atta is goal. Yeah, it is a purpose of life. It is the aim. It is where we're heading. And this is one of the things that the spiritual path and Buddhism has. So thinking about things in the right way, having the right view, using that in the right way, actually what it does, it takes you onto the spiritual path. It makes the spiritual path seem more urgent, more important. Now I have to do this. And if I don't do it now, then who knows what's going to happen around the corner. And this is the right way of thinking about this. And then you will have a very positive experience as a Buddhist if you do it in this way. So this is kind of some of the overarching ideas of right view. And to But of course, the purpose of these overarching ideas is to bring us back to the significance of the actual practice. So how can we use this in a way that really is powerful for the practice? And I will give you a teaching that I've been using quite a lot recently over the last 6 months or so. And I talk about this all the time. And for those of you who have heard my talks before, you probably heard this before, but I think it's a very interesting way of approaching the idea of the spiritual practice. And this is the idea of how can we be more moral as human beings. We know that the idea of morality or ethics, or call it kindness or sila in Pali, we know how important it is, to enable the practice. But actually, it is quite difficult to be a moral person. If you say to yourself, I'm always going to do the right thing, I'm always going to say the right thing, I'm always going to think the right thing, I'm going to avoid all the defilements. If you try that, are you able to do that? Are you able to be kind consistently all the time? If you are, I would like to have a chat with you, because that would be wonderful if you're always able to be kind. It's very rare for people to always be able to be kind. In fact, almost everyone, except for the fully enlightened beings, will find that there are times when they lose that ability to do the right thing or think in the right way. You get upset about something, you get some excessive kind of stupid desires or whatever it might be. And these things, they lead you in the wrong way. So the important question then becomes, how can we be more kind? How can we enable ourselves to live, to make progress in the moral realm, not always fall back on the same kind of problems, always fall back to the same bad habits that we have? It is so difficult to come out of our habits. They are so sticky. They're like treacle. You're trying to pull yourself out, but it's like you're stuck in a swamp, pulling yourself out and kind of sinking back in again. And it's this really hard realm to kind of get out of. In fact, the Buddha uses this idea for the sensory realm. The sensory realm is this realm, it's like a marsh. You're stuck and you kind of really hard to get out of this marsh because it's so wet and so spongy, and you sink in and there's mud everywhere and you have to drag yourself out of this marsh. And this is kind of the Buddha's idea of the sensory realm, and in large part because of our habits. So what can we do? And the traditional way of thinking about how to be moral is to say that you have to be mindful. And if you are mindful, then that means that you will be able to monitor your mind, be able to monitor your actions and your speech, and then you'll be able to make a different choice, go in a different direction, not follow your old habits. And that is kind of nice. And of course, there is some truth to that. The problem is that it is not enough. And the reason why it is not enough is because sometimes your mindfulness is very weak. Sometimes you are very busy. There's all kinds of things happening in your life. And sometimes you have no mindfulness at all. And so when you have no mindfulness at all, how can you make good choices? So the question then becomes, how can we make good choices even when mindfulness is low? This is one problem. The other problem is that even though you are mindful, sometimes we don't understand what is right. We don't understand what is a good choice, because we haven't got enough insight into what is truly moral, truly ethical, to be able to make good choices in the first place. And what happens then is that you may be fully mindful, but you still make bad choices. Because we don't understand. It's difficult to be a truly moral being according to the Buddha's teachings. It takes a lot of understanding. And so if mindfulness is not enough, what can we do? And lo and behold, the answer is right view. Right view is where we should go to enable the morality, enable the ethics to really become more powerful. And the example that I have been using in recent months, which I think is quite nice, is the idea of crossing a busy street. If you are in a city or you are somewhere, the street is very busy, lots of cars coming all directions. What do? Well, you have two choices. Either you can just walk right into the street, just walk there, just don't look anywhere, just walk and hope for the best. That is one way. And if you do that, I would you might want to see a psychiatrist or something because it's not a good idea. Or alternatively, you come to it, you look left, you look right, maybe you look left again, right again. Actually, that's left, left, then right. Yeah, and then you know whether the cars are coming. And then when there's no cars, then you walk across the street. So which one do you do? When you come to a street, do you just walk into the street or do you look left and right? I'm pretty sure all of you look left and right, yeah? And if you don't, then stay on after the talk and I'll have a chat with you afterwards because that is kind of a scary prospect otherwise. So please look left and right when you come to the street. Why is it that you look left and right? And this is where it gets really interesting because when you come to that street, even if you have no mindfulness at all, even if you are on your mobile phone watching TikTok or making a selfie movie or whatever it is that you're doing, and your mind is in a completely different space, even if you have zero mindfulness or 0.01% mindfulness, still, when you come to that street, you will look left and right. Why is that? You have no mindfulness, right? So how come you look left and right if there's no mindfulness? Have you ever thought about that? This is like a profound question, right? How come that you are looking left and right if there is no mindfulness? And the very simple answer is because you have right view. You know that that street is dangerous. That is called right view in this case. The street is dangerous. And that thing, that understanding, that right view overrides everything else. It informs the mindfulness in a very deep level and tells the mind, now be careful. And so because of that, you look left and you look right. Even though you had almost zero mindfulness to start with, the right view gives rise to the mindfulness, and then it gives rise to the possibility of taking the right action. And so you don't walk into that street, right? You don't die on the spot because you are just being completely silly. And this shows you the power of right view. It's incredibly powerful. It overrides everything else. It sets you on the right track, points you in the right direction. And this is the idea here of right view. And so you do exactly the same thing in your life. Yeah, if you understand in a profound way the urgency, the importance of living in the right way, if you understand that this is exactly like coming to a street, except that it's much more dangerous. It's much more dangerous to make the wrong choice than it is to walk into a street. Yes? Do you agree with that? You do? Okay, marvelous. As some of you know, that what a wonderful thing. It is much more dangerous because we are going to die anyway. So death is not really negotiable. So you're going to die one way or the other. But when it comes to how we live, that is always negotiable. And if you die, you get reborn, you carry on the other side, and everything is maybe fine. But if you make a bad choice, you're letting yourself down. You are destroying your own future. You're not destroying your own future by dying, because dying is a given, but you are destroying your own future, at least a little bit, by making the wrong choice. And so it's actually more bad, it's worse, yeah, to do a bad ethical choice than it is just to walk into a street. So remember the importance of these things. Yeah, and as you do that, as you understand the urgency of the practice, now is the time to be moral. Now is the time to do the right thing. You can't put it off. Then this right view enables you to live better as a consequence. So a little bit more about that right view, because it may be a little bit amorphous to you. What exactly is the right view that makes you ethical? What is the right view that encourages you to be more moral? What is that really about? And here is where the whole idea of impermanence, of anicca, comes in. The idea that things are unreliable, uncertain. You don't know what's going to happen next. This is where all of that comes in. Yeah. And if you understand in a profound sense the danger of impermanence, how quickly things change. Yeah, just look now at the wars in the world, the wars in Ukraine, the wars in the Middle East. When is war going to come to Australia? Yeah, or I don't know, some of you might be in New Zealand. I don't know where you're all from, maybe New Zealand or Australia or whatever. What happens if war comes to Australia? Maybe you get drafted into the army. Yeah, well, even if you don't get drafted into the army, you may have to do other things that have to do with the war somehow. It's going to destroy so much of the possibility of the spiritual path. In fact, this is what the Buddha says in the suttas, that peaceful times, those are the times to practice the spiritual life. Things can change so fast. Yeah, suddenly your favorite spiritual teacher, I don't know who your favorite spiritual teacher is, Venerable Karunika maybe, I don't know who it is, maybe the Buddha, they disappear, the suttas disappear. Monks and nuns, they disappear, they die, suddenly they're gone. Suddenly you die. What are you going to do when you die? Where are you going to be reborn? Is there going to be Dhamma where you get reborn? Everything is so incredibly uncertain. We don't appreciate fully the uncertainty of the world, and this is part of the problem. And this is one of the reasons why the death contemplation is so important in Buddhism, because the death contemplation drives home the idea of uncertainty, unreliability, impermanence, all of these kind of things. And for that reason, it helps you to become a better, more moral being, because this is the right view that leads to this idea of being moral and living in a good way. So this is how it all hangs together, right? You understand the urgency of doing what is right. Now is the opportunity. The opportunity is not tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow is uncertain. It is so unreliable. Reminding yourself every day when you wake up, what is the first thought you should have when you wake up? I could die today. Yeah. That may be the first thought you can have when you wake up. Yeah, just to start the day in a good way. Yeah. And it is a good way. That's kind of the point. It is a good way of starting the day, because if you remember that you're going to die, it's going to have a very positive impact on you. So start a day with death contemplation. I know that there's actually quite a few people who do that. And then that gives you this impetus, yeah, to live well, to do the right thing, because you understand the urgency of everything. And then you are on the right track. So these are just some ideas for you about right view and about how right view can be used on the spiritual path. There's many, 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 many more things to be said about this. It's a very, very large subject, but this is just some ideas. And what I would really recommend you to do is to contemplate the idea of right view in your own life, what it means to you, and then use that to kind of help you to access these spiritual teachings and make them a practical possibility in your own life. And then you are going to have something very powerful going on for you, for yourself. So that is just a little bit of a Dhamma talk for all of you. And I would like to give you a chance also to ask some questions or make some comments, or please don't give me any complaints, because I don't like complaints, you know, but questions and comments are all right. So please feel free to fire away. You can, I'm not sure how do we normally do this? You just put it in the chat? Is that the idea? Or yeah? Okay, so I'll see. So if you have any questions, now is your chance. If you don't have any questions, that is also a chance. So just you only have. Going to give you 1 minute to respond. If you don't have any questions, I will just carry on talking, because I can talk a lot more. You know, it's easy. So so here we have. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so here we go. All questions coming up. Excellent. So the first question is incomplete, I think. A rebirth question: pay for bad karma and love for life is what makes us reborn. Okay, so this is a question about what makes us reborn. Pay for bad karma and love for life. Yeah, you can put it that way if you like. You know, if you have made some bad karma, then yes, it will have an effect on you, but bad karma is not everything. Yeah, remember that bad karma can be overcome. And so it's not as if you, determines your rebirth or determines that you will get reborn. It is just that it tends to take you in that direction. Every time you make a misstep, every time you do something unethical, you are increasing the chances of, you know, of this whole process carrying on for a long time into the future. A love for life. It is not necessarily bad to love life in a certain way, but you have to love life in the right way here. And I think that is a critical thing. It's very easy to become very dark about things if you don't love life. Yeah, if you become kind of very negative about it, it's very easy to be depressed and sad. So it is okay to love life, but you have to love it in a spiritual way here. So love life in the sense of that you enjoy being kind, you enjoy being good, you enjoy living well, you enjoy being generous, you enjoy being compassionate. Yeah, that is the best way to enjoy life and to love life. And then you are okay. And then if you enjoy other things as well, like some of the material things of the world, some of the relationships in the world, that is okay. But put your emphasis on the spiritual qualities, and then you're going to be on the way out. Don't see the Dhamma in the too dark a way. If you focus on the difficult aspects of the Dhamma, you may end up having a problem as a result. Okay, so let's have a look. So next one here is Ajahn, I still find it difficult to relax the body during meditation. Any tips? So the idea to be able to relax, you have to ask yourself, how do you relax in ordinary life? Yeah, if you are really stressed, how do you actually relax? And the answer to that question is that sometimes the way to relax is you just lie down on your bed. Yeah, and you lie down in bed, you close your eyes, and you just kind of allow things to be here. Yeah, this is how often we learn to relax. And as you lie on your bed and you don't do anything, and slowly, 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 the mind kind of unwinds, and then you relax in this way. So don't relax by, you know, watching movies or doing silly things. You can do that as well, actually. You can do things like maybe listening to some very gentle music. That can be a nice way to relaxing. Yeah, and the sensory realm is very large, and there are certain sensory input which are conducive to relaxation, and certain sensory input which is not conducive to relaxation. So some gentle music can be good to get you started. Yeah, if you're feeling very stressed, you can go for a walk. Yeah, if you are nearby some nice park or some nice forest or whatever, go for a walk. Just watch the trees, watch the birds or whatever. Have a cup of tea. Yeah, having a cup of tea is recommended. Ajahn Brahm recommends a cup of tea. That's kind of his way, one of his ways of relaxing. And so do these little small things like that, and then you have an idea how to relax also in meditation. Meditation is a bit like lying down on your bed when you're feeling very stressed, right? You don't do anything. You just sit back, allowing things to be. And as you allow things to be, slowly, 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 relaxation happens. Also very important is the kind of mind state you have. You have to have a sense of kindness towards yourself, gentleness towards yourself. Yeah, being your own friend is such an important thing in this world. A lot of the idea of having metta for oneself just basically means being your own friend. That's really what it comes down to. And when you are your own friend, well, then you have a very good relationship with yourself. That's when you can also have good relationship with other people. Okay, let's go on to the next one now. Where does non-self stand in right view? So non-self is a very important part of right view. And it is one of it is, if you like, the foundational insight of the Buddha on the path is this idea of right view. Everything else emerges from the idea of non-self. That is the core critical insight of the Buddha. Dukkha relates to that, impermanence relates to that. And so it is absolutely critical. But what matters the most is using ideas like non-self in a way that is useful on the path. Yeah. And this is why we want to use right view that is useful, right view that actually makes sense to us, right view, aspects of right view that we can relate to so that it actually helps in our practice. And so non-self can sometimes be too theoretical, too hard to grasp. But if you can find a way of using right view to, non-self as a right view to help your practice, then do that. One example of this that I often use is the idea that if there is no self, it means that we are basically just conditioned as human beings. Yeah, if you are conditioned as human beings, it means that the person you are now is the sum of all the things that have worked on you in the past, in this life, in past lives, and all of these kind of things. If there is no self, it means that there is nothing inside of you that can stand its ground and stand up against conditions. No, you are fully determined by the conditions that have worked on you. And because of that, it means that people in the world they don't really know what they're doing. Yeah, people in the world, when they do bad things, they do it because of cause and conditions. And this helps us to forgive people in our life. Whenever someone does something bad towards us, instead of complaining about that and saying they are a bad person, understand that they don't have a choice. Why? Because there is no self. There's no self that can stand its ground in the face of all the conditions of life that form us into the people that we are. So this is a practical way of using non-self. So many questions. Wow, this is really happening now. So I'll take maybe one or two more, and then I will have to go. So just let's have a look here. Right view also needs understanding of the law of karma. Indeed, so the law of karma is part of the idea of right view. And that is, part of the aspect of letting yourself down if you do bad things because you are creating a bad future for yourself. That is an aspect of karma. And you can feel that in your own mind, how you feel bad about yourself if you do bad things. That is karma right there in a very practical way here. Then we have how do we recondition our ego to turn away from desire? We are naturally inclined towards pleasure in the sensual realm, even basic things like food and coffee and chocolate. Yes, I can relate to some of these things. I know what you're talking about. So don't worry too much about it. Yeah, these are small things. If you knew how much coffee I drink, you'd probably be aghast. You think this monkey has no chance of getting anywhere. He drinks so much coffee. But don't worry about it. These are very, very small things. Don't worry so much about the desires in life, even some of the bigger desires. Worry instead about the spiritual practice. Live the Noble Eightfold Path. Try to understand the idea of right view. And as you do that, the desires will, over time, start to fade away. There are some very beautiful suttas about the danger of the sensual realm, and I often teach those when I teach a retreat. Actually, I will be coming to Sydney actually in December. I will be teaching a retreat over there, so maybe we can talk about some of these suttas. That would be good fun. So for those of you who live in the Sydney area, you have a chance to come. Those are really good reflections to give you a kind of global view of the dangers of the five sense world and then help you to let go of that. So these are the two suggestions then is to just generally practice the Noble Eightfold Path because that will cause you to overcome desires in the long run. That's number one. And the second is do some of these specific reflections, contemplations that help you to overcome desires. Okay. Next one. Ajahn, thank you for the clear explanation of right view with the looking right, left, and right before crossing the street example. Okay, you are very welcome. I'm very glad. So this is just one example of using right view, but the point is that there are so many ways of using right view. This is just one way that I find useful, and then you kind of find your way, hopefully, of doing this. So last question, dear Ajahn, Sampajanya, situational awareness, is it mostly used in meditation context, or can we use it effectively in daily life too? What is the difference between intuition and Sampajanya? You can use Sampajanya in all contexts. You can use it in daily life. You can also use it in meditation practice. In fact, that is how it is explained in the suttas. It is explained as a daily life practice and is also used, explained to be part of Satipatthana practice, which is meditation. So in daily life, situational awareness, Sampajanya, Sati Sampajanya, just means that you are aware of what you are doing is useful or not. Does it fulfill the purpose of the spiritual path? Yeah, should I go to the casino or should I not go to the casino? Okay, you know the answer to that one, right? I don't have to tell you that one. Casinos are these driving engines of desire. A few times I've been to a casino, I was really terrified at the kind of atmosphere and the negative feelings in these places. So Sampajanya is about understanding what is appropriate and doing things that are conducive to the spiritual life and avoiding those things that are not. That is Sampajanya in daily life. Sampajanya in meditation is knowing whether you are, what is happening in your mind. Am I doing the thing that is conducive to meditation? Am I watching the breath or am I fantasizing? Am I watching the breath in the right way? Am I holding on too much to the breath? Do I have sufficient mindfulness to be able to stay with the breath? This is Sampajanya. It tells you whether what you're doing is right, conducive to the path. This is kind of the idea. Difference between intuition and Sampajanya. Well, intuition can be helpful. Yeah, intuition is more like a kind of deep wisdom that lies within, and sometimes it comes out, and you know what is right. Simply, you can't really explain, but you somehow know what is the right thing to do. Yeah, and that can be helpful to guide the sampajanya, guide that situational awareness in your life. So sampajanya, what is sampajanya? Sampajanya is translated sometimes as situational awareness. That's Bhante Sujata's translation. Sometimes it's translated as full awareness, sometimes as clear comprehension. Is this idea of knowing what is appropriate. That's kind of what it comes down to. Is it going to be suitable for the spiritual practice? Yeah, this is kind of the basic idea of Sampajanya. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, people are, yeah, thank you so much, Ajahn, and thank you all in return. It's been lovely to be with you all, and I wish you all the very best. Maybe we should just pay respect to the triple gem before we say a final goodbye. So let's do that together. Yeah. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.